Facing the real possibility of actually having to help the ones impacted the most by COVID-19, Republicans have suddenly just concerned themselves with the deficit. This is after sending trillions of dollars of taxpayer money to the banks and corporations in the form of a massive bailout fund. Now, there are discussions about a possible phase four stimulus meant to help states and local governments, as well as regular Americans, whose $1,200 stimulus checks are already spent. Those discussions have been happening sporadically on Capitol Hill, but not really amounting to a whole lot. Now, some Republicans are saying, you know what, let's wait and see. We give $3 trillion to the banks and the large corporations. Let's reopen the states and see how that works. Well, I already know how that's going to work. It's going to be an absolute disaster. But okay, they're saying, wait and see. Okay. Now, others are largely protecting their donors, right? And I mean, that's fairly simple, but they all kind of serve the donors. But and others are hatching a plan to use coronavirus as a way to gut federal programs, specifically Social Security. Now, according to Jane Johnson reporting for Common Dreams, the Trump administration officials are reportedly considering several proposals, purportedly aimed at reducing government spending, including a pair of plans that would provide Americans with cash payments in exchange for delays or cuts to their Social Security benefits. In addition to weighing a push for automatic federal spending cuts that would take effect once the economy rebounds from the coronavirus crisis, the Washington Post reported on Sunday that top White House economic officials are, quote, exploring a proposal floated by two conservative scholars, quote unquote, that would allow Americans to choose to receive checks of up to $5,000 for a delay of their Social Security benefits. So now senior administration officials have dubbed that the, quote, Eagle Plan. It's the Eagle Plan. Yay. Does this have something to do with feasting on the carrion of the dead who can no longer retire, who have to work until they die? Eagle Plan. What, you didn't know the eagles were a carrion eater? Apparently. All right. So anyway, this Eagle Plan, right, was discussed in a 29-page memo that had called for an overhaul of federal retirement programs in exchange for upfront payments to some workers. The proposal calls for giving Americans $10,000 upfront in exchange for curbing their federal retirement benefits, such as Social Security. Now, you won't be surprised to find out the Eagle Plan was drafted by a State Department official close to President Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner. So it wasn't a Kushner plan, but it was somebody close to Kushner who forwarded the proposal to the White House Council of Economic Advisors. You want to know who was in favor of this as well? Art Laffer, the Laffer curve. He's a conservative economist and a Trump advisor. He's like, I totally support this proposal. Oh, yes, give people an advance on their retirement, have them rob their own retirement, basically, to help them through this coronavirus. And then guess what? They don't get to retire. Maybe they'll die before they're able to collect any benefits. Nice. Real nice. Wow. All right. So again, the idea here is you need aid. You need help. The American people, 30 million people are out of work right now, right? These are mainly people that work in low-wage service jobs. They're out of work. They desperately need money. Some of them cannot get unemployment benefits because the systems routinely keep them out. And so in order to help them, because rents and mortgages are not frozen, right? Credit card payments are not frozen. Right now, student loan payments are frozen. At least that's one good thing. But bills still need to get paid. So they're saying, well, you could just borrow against your future, your Social Security benefits in the future. And so instead of retiring at 65, you retire at 72. Oh, you die sooner than that? Sad day for you. I guess we just get to keep all this money. I mean, this is ridiculous. But that's what they're asking you to do. I mean, you got to hand it to them. Republicans never seem to waste a crisis to screw over working people. I mean, they're calling this monstrous idea, as I've mentioned before, the Eagle Plan. Now, Social Security Works, however, tweeted this out, quote, "It should be called the Work Till You Die plan." That's true. And they add, "The only reason to support it over simply sending people $2,000 a month is to undermine our Social Security system." Now, that's a reference, of course, to the plan by the Senate Democrats. Now, Senate Democrats Bernie Sanders, Ed Markey, and Kamala Harris have all put forward a plan to send Americans $2,000 a month. Now, under this plan, Americans who make less than $120,000 a year, so still means tested, would receive a monthly $2,000 coronavirus stimulus check. Married couples would receive $4,000, and an extra $2,000 would be provided for each child with a limit of 3 children. A similar proposal for Americans to receive $2,000 a month was introduced last month by Representative Tim Ryan and Representative Ro Khanna. So that's the Democrats' plan. Understand the difference here. Republicans want you to borrow against your own retirement instead of actually use your money, taxpayer money, to help you in the form of a stimulus, a UBI. While the Democrats, again, want to send you your own money back in the form of a UBI that is not taxable. Gee, I know which one I want to go with. I mean, Republicans are also looking at cutting payroll taxes, right? With Trump especially fond of the payroll tax cut. Now, that doesn't help the 30 million people who are out of work and need cash to pay their bills. Again, a payroll tax cut basically is when you work, you take home a little bit more money because there's less money going to your Social Security retirement fund. So it's not only a way to force people back to work, of course, which a majority of Americans are not yet ready for, but a way to damage Social Security in the long run. So, but understand that in the long run, gutting Social Security and destroying it is the Republican plan. It always has been. Republicans despise the fact that there are people who can retire, that get this money, their own money from the government, that private industry cannot put their greedy little paws on. They can't capitalize on that. And it frustrates them deeply. Now, Jeff Stein from Washington Post noted that one page of the state plan says that, quote, "This is an opportunity to rethink Social Security." Again, because that's the plan. It adds, "If you want to grow a tree, is it better to water it early in life or at the end of life, or maybe a little bit of both? Our economy might work the same way." They're literally, though, trying to water the economy by taking people's Social Security, by making you borrow against yourself in the future. You don't know what's going to happen. Now, there's another problem here, right? It's the fact that a lot of people are going to be required to have Social Security because they can't retire otherwise. That's why it's a work till you die plan. Remember, pay is so low right now and expenses are so high. Very few young people, especially in the millennial generation, we're now in our 30s and 40s, right? We don't have any money to save to retirement. We just don't. We haven't had the money to save for retirement. And now you have a global pandemic, which if you actually had savings, you no longer have it because you've been forced to dip into those savings in order to weather this financial storm. So really, that entire thing compounds this even worse. Now, that said, the Social Security cuts were floated by congressional Republicans, right? Trump himself says, I'm not in favor of the Eagle plan. In fact, Hogan Gidley, a White House spokesperson, says that Trump described this as a ludicrous on its face idea. However, the Post reported the president hasn't actually read the proposal. Because, of course, we all know the president doesn't read. So, of course, he didn't review the proposal. But here's the thing. Donald Trump's running for re-election, right? He's not going to come out for Social Security cuts. Not openly. No. He's going to say what he did the first time. Oh, I'm going to protect Social Security and Medicare. Those are going to be fine. In fact, they're tremendous programs. I'm going to keep it for you lovely seniors. No, how Republicans always say, we're going to keep it for the lovely seniors, the people that vote for us more often. But down the road for everybody else, we're going to have to make some cuts and some quote unquote adjustments, right? We're going to fix and save Social Security, except that they're not, right? Except that they're not. But look, the Republicans are starting to lose the senior vote over coronavirus, over this disastrous response to it, and his disastrous response to basically everything. So Trump's going to come out. He's going to say Social Security cuts are off the table. That is a lie. He has proposed in his annual budget blueprints, written with congressional Republicans, that they need to slash both programs, Medicare and Social Security. So, yeah. Not only that, but Trump himself, during an interview at the World Economic Forum in Davos back in January, said that he would consider cuts to Social Security and Medicare if he was reelected in November. Donald Trump is a snake. We all know he's a snake. And make no mistake, the Republicans are going to join him in going after Social Security. And they're using a global crisis where tens of millions of Americans are hurting in order to destroy the social safety net instead of helping them. And that, my friends, is beyond gross. And we should never let them forget it, especially at the ballot box. These ghouls, these cretins, should never be allowed to win another election ever again. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent progressive media.